Krasnodar, Russia, 2047. Galaxy. Play Nocturnal by Madame Moonlight. As the music kicked on, Maria popped the top off the bottle that contained her favorite strain of marijuana, Violet Magma. She pulled a bud out, broke it apart with her fingers, and began to wrap it in a light green rolling paper. Her fingers, still sticky with resin, fumbled with the execution, causing a slightly flawed finished product. When she was finished, she licked the flavor away from her fingertips, placed the butt of the joint into her mouth, and flipped the tip of her index finger back to expose the flame of the combustion implant hiding underneath. After lighting her joint and taking a couple of quick puffs, she walked over to the window and opened it wide. The pleasant smell of rain wafted into the room, trading places with the skunk of the weed smoke that rolled out. Maria sat back down in her seat and stared out the window at the city lights beyond the downpour. The repetitive tapping of the rain on the roof above her head drew her attention up. She stared at the small pools of water that streamed over the glass and down the sides as she drew in a huge pull from the joint between her fingers. A swirling wave of warming euphoria built up in her lungs. A pleasant pressure pushed up from behind her glowing amethyst eyes. And only when the thumping of her heartbeat began to grow in protest did she release the cloud of smoke into the air. Maria stared at the crying clouds above, unaware that the door to the roof opened silently behind her. The unknown figure approached with carefully placed footsteps. The pitter-patter of the rain muffled their approach. Maria's eyes were closed, her mind moving slowly with the sound of the melody. She felt the air in the room change, and the tickling brush of another's hair caressing her face. Soft and familiar lips covered hers, and she pressed back hard with a kiss of her own. Her tongue parted the lips of the person above, joining in the spinning dance of tongue and saliva. "You taste like smoke and skunk." Maria chuckled and opened her eyes to see her girlfriend, Misty, staring down, only a couple of inches away from her. Maria reached up and pulled her face back down to hers, their lips meeting again for another long kiss, before Misty stepped away to sit down next to her. "You smell like it too. That's why I opened the window," Maria stated, pointing at the window in front of her. "Didn't want you complaining about the smell when you got home. You can always light a candle too, or some incense." Maria simply shrugged. "I could, but I love the smell of rain more than any candle. They literally make a scented candle with the name Fresh Rain. Plus, I don't know how you can smell anything over the weed smoke." Maria took another puff and turned to face Misty. "You are late, by the way. Simeon stealing again?" Misty opened a can of fruity seltzer water and took a sip before starting. "Little shit took Mr. Moth right off my desk and tried for the door, with me sitting right there. He didn't even try to be sneaky about it. No shame. Had to call his parents in again." "Same reaction as always?" "Worse. His mom didn't even show up, and his dad was high off his ass. Barely registered anything I told him. In one ear and out the other. Sorry. Simeon is the one that should be sorry. Nothing I say to him ever matters. He has no remorse. Nothing phases him. He just takes what he wants and does what he wants. No one at home to teach him right and wrong. The school won't do anything either. They just extend his suspension, and when he comes back, he does it again. I think the only reason he does it to me now is because, unlike his classmates, I won't beat him to a pulp for trying. It's just harsh words coming from me." "Ever think of the reason?" For what?" "Why he does it. He might need the money for something. If his parents can't or won't care for him, maybe he has to do it for himself. People will do anything to survive." Misty laughed and held her hands up in frustration. "Then he can get a job. Why doesn't he just go out and find one instead of stealing? There's jobs out there. He can work in a fast food restaurant or mow lawns or something.
It's not quite that easy here, babe. It's true there are some jobs, but none of them are good. Especially for someone his age. People here take advantage of innocence and youth.
Innocent? Misty guffawed at that statement. He's a thief! He's no better than a shadow!
You can see him coming at least.
Misty groaned and leaned her head back against the chair. She stared up in silence for a moment, quietly shaking her head. Maria eyed her girlfriend with concern.
Babe, are you okay? This isn't like you. Where's my bright and bubbly baby doll?
Misty covered her face for a moment in temporary shame.
I'm sorry, the city's getting to me. I'm still not used to it. The move here was already stressful enough, and while it is exciting, it's still scary. And the people here, everyone is just...
Maria reached forward and placed her hand on Misty's, who gave it a reassuring squeeze.
Are you regretting it?
The wait for Misty's response as she took another sip from her drink and set it down next to the ashtray had Maria nervous. Misty turned to Maria. The quirky half-smile she wore when amused and sincere crept its way onto her face. Her light blue eyes peeked from behind the falling strands of her ruffled blonde hair. Their silent stare gave Maria her answer, even before Misty spoke up.
There's nowhere in this world I could go with you and have regrets. The world itself is stressful, and you are what I need to relieve my stress.
Misty had made her way from her seat over to Maria's and slowly climbed on top of her girlfriend, giving her a series of rapid-fire kisses. They both chuckled before Misty spoke up.
You're right, though. I know I am.
About what?
I need to try to not let myself get so flustered. Krasnodar is very different than America. Just a little culture shock.
The moment was suddenly interrupted when Maria's vision was filled with digital text, reminding her of the meeting she had planned tonight.
Shit.
Misty pulled back.
What is it?
Maria forced her up and stood as she turned the notification off.
I forgot I have something I have to do tonight.
Misty's face became dour and sullen.
Dima?
Maria nodded and her girlfriend groaned with disgust.
Ugh. I don't understand why you work for that man. I don't like it. It's like what we were talking about earlier. People do what they must to survive, and he pays well. I don't care about the money. I just want you safe. That job is risky. I don't care if you work in one of those food stalls on 58th. Speaking of, that's where I'm heading. Want anything to eat?
Misty shook her head in annoyance and pondered for a moment.
Get me a bowl of that basil fried rice from that place I like. Oh, and one of those mango drinks. Thanks. And please be careful out there, babe. Always am. You're the clumsy one. That's why I gave you that necklace.
Misty smiled and wrapped the silver chain around one finger, revealing the silver heart-shaped vial that contained a dark blue liquid.
Wish you'd bought one for yourself, too. They're too expensive. That was 80,000 rupees. Besides, that purchase is already protecting my heart. I'm good.
Maria stepped out into the rain and crossed the street during a break in the traffic. As she reached the other side, she nearly face-planted after stumbling over something in her path. When she whipped her head around, she realized she had tripped over a shadow laying in the middle of the sidewalk. Whoever they were, they didn't even react from the contact and continued to lay in silence. The rain, the only thing that revealed their location.
Sorry,
Maria barely whispered before turning away. She meant it for more reasons than one. The woman's shame grew as she passed more and more shadows on her way to the parking lot. Some still retained their humanity, only visible by the clothing they wore as they staggered back and forth to their destinations. Others quietly conversed in hushed tones while hiding from the storm overhead. And the worst of them, naked, wandering in a state of lost humanity, looking for something they would never find again. Maria, filled with guilt, picked up speed while dodging their random and unseen grasps through the fallen rain, voices begging for change.
How many of them are like this because of me? One or two of basil fried rice. And water, please. And can I go ahead and order a second one for the road? Oh, and the mango lassi, please. She'd be so cross with me if I had forgotten that.
Maria chuckled as she handed over the money to the street vendor and sat to wait for the food to finish. After a few minutes, a steaming bowl of basil fried rice was placed in front of her. Maria cooled a spoonful off with a couple of blows, but before she could take a bite, a sudden reaching hand yanked the spoon away. She turned to see Dima, who had taken the seat next to her, chewing her stolen food.
That's good. Thanks for cooling that off for me.
He smiled a wicked smile, showing off his golden teeth. The smile reached his one cybernetic eye, a bright green, with a pupil in the shape of a pot leaf. The other side of his face pulled the smile line up into the curve of a long scar that ran up to his scalp, meeting his closely cropped black hair.
Help yourself,
Maria sarcastically offered.
Oh, I will.
He then intercepted the bottle of water the vendor tried to hand to Maria by repeatedly smacking her hand until she surrendered.
Thanks, love.
Maria sighed and pushed her wet hair out of her face.
So what's the job, Dima?
Somewhere you need to be? Let me guess. Misty? How's that American tang for you?
His smile turned into an obnoxiously loud laugh, exposing the half-chewed food filling his mouth.
No, seriously, how is she enjoying the motherland?
Cut to the chase, Dima. And please, don't talk about her. She's not a part of this. Leave her out of it.
Dima gave a quick shrug.
You're always so rude to me, Maria. Here I am, just trying to make a conversation. So defensive, like a princess in a tower. Live a little outside those walls, my dear. You'll find life so much more enjoyable.
Maria continued her blank stare at Dima until the man sighed and covertly passed her a package across the gap between the two.
Twin nights, tomorrow night. Put it in the hands of Alyosha. No one else. Payment as usual. Don't mess this one up, though. Big deal. Trying to get on the man's good side, and can't have you messing this up.
Maria put the package away in her leather jacket and gave it a quick pat with her next question.
What am I moving?
You know better than to ask questions.
I want to know.
Why?
Dima turned to face her, his chewing slowing down.
Wait. Is this about the last one? You're still hung up on that?
Maria's guilt must have been easy to spot, for Dima burst into laughter again.
Why do you care so much about them? They're nobodies. Whoever they used to be. Gone, paka paka. Their choice, not yours. Again, stop with the worrying, love. It doesn't sit well on your face. Makes you ugly.
I'm not doing it again. No more veil. Give me something else. Anything. BR11. At least that stuff actually saves people. Just no more veil. It's causing too much damage.
Dima pointed a finger at her.
I still have 3 crates of the stuff, and I can't sell it back to the military. They have no use for the old batch, especially with the new stuff floating around out there. I'm not just going to let it sit and catch dust. Go on, make us some money and quit your whining, woman.
Maria's defiance filled her up as her mouth opened before she could even think. I said, no. A long and uncomfortable quiet filled the air between them. Dima had stopped chewing. His head started to shake back and forth lightly, and his eyebrows raised.
You do not get to say no.
Maria swallowed, and her words got caught in her throat for a moment. I am, though. Find someone else. The sudden change in Dima's demeanor wasn't entirely unexpected, but still caused Maria to jump as he shattered the bowl against the wall. In one fluid motion, he had slammed Maria's head against the table, and his arm had split open to extend a collapsible handgun that reformed within his waiting palm. His fingers had already curled around the handle, and he had one finger on the trigger. Maria could feel it itching to be used.
Go ahead. Say no again.
Maria began to shake under the strength of his cybernetic arm, knowing there was no way to break free.
I said, say it again. Speak your mind. No, seriously, go on. I want to hear what you want.
Maria sighed in defeat and remained silent.
Good girl. Thought you had forgotten your place for a moment.
He withdrew the gun back into his arm and stepped back, allowing Maria to sit back up.
Seriously, though, where did that confidence come from? Is this cause of that American you have hiding away in your home? You never seemed to mind until she came into the picture. I can't have her muddying up the waters around here. I can deal with her if you want.
Maria snapped back at him.
No, don't! Stay away from her!
Dima clicked his tongue again and tilted his head to the side.
There's that word again. No. I kind of want to pay her a visit now. Just 'cause you said that.
Maria began to fill with panic and wiped away the blood from her busted lip.
No! I mean, please, don't. I'll move it. I'll make sure the veil gets to Alyosha.
Dima's eyes scanned her up and down, analyzing her.
Good. Remember, if I say jump, you jump. If I say roll over, you roll over. If I tell you to get on your knees and suck my dick, you do it. No questions. If I want to be king of the shadows, I will be. I better not see you like this again. No more no. Only yes. Tomorrow night, twin lights. Alyosha, do not fuck this up.
Maria was greeted with the sound of loud music as she opened the front doors to the Twin Lights Dance Club. She passed by 3 people that were calling it an early night, one clearly a veil user, invisible to the rest of the world. The only way she could tell was because of the 2 friends on either side, holding nothing but air, and in the middle between them, a floating pair of flashy gold pants and a green shirt covered in vomit, which dripped onto the ground behind them.
Poor guy. He has no idea. And if he keeps going down that path, he won't ever have any ideas of his own again.
Maria reached the bar and asked for Alyosha, wanting to get this whole ordeal over with.
He's not here yet. Said he was going to run a bit late. He's over in the Yellow District, so you know he's going to take his time. What's your poison, darling?
Maria held her hand up and shook her head.
No thanks. I don't need the distraction tonight.
Like I said, the Yellow District. If you insist on waiting, then at least have a drink. Don't want my customers getting bored.
Maria sighed and puffed her cheeks out.
Yeah, okay. I'll Let me get the cauldron then.
Whoo-hoo! Starting off strong, are we? There she is. There's the life of the party. One cauldron coming right up.
As the bartender got to work with an elaborate and fancy display with his cybernetics, Maria's head began to bob back and forth to the music playing. She watched the people on the dance floor as they moved in wildly different ways to the music, each lost in their own worlds.
That does look like fun. Maybe I can take a moment to relax while I'm here. I can just have the bartender tell me when Alyosha finishes up in the Yellow District.
One bubbling cauldron stolen from Baba Yaga herself for the pretty lady. If she comes calling, I'm throwing you under the bus, though. I don't want to deal with grandmother today. Would you like to start the tab or just the one drink?
Just the one drink for now. But I might get another later. Maybe.
Maybe, she says. Ha! I'm going to bring the Russian out of you tonight. 1,400 rubles, please.
Maria passed him the money and a bit extra as she told him to get her attention when Alyosha arrives.
Sure thing. Now get out there and have some fun, Miss Maybe.
Maria nodded and turned to face the dance floor. She looked around for an unoccupied table, but seeing none, decided she'd ask to join the lone guy sitting in the back. She expertly danced her way through the crowd to the corner of the room. The man did a double take as she approached, his face a mask of confusion for a moment, before his expression changed back into a blank stare.
Privyet!
She shouted over the noise.
Do you mind if I sit down?
He shook his head and offered the seat to her with a gesture.
Thanks.
She half expected him to try and initiate a conversation, but the man awkwardly sat back, staring silently out at the crowd, occasionally glancing over at her. He had a shaved head and was wearing simple clothing, a pair of black pants and a white tank top. Even with his plain appearance, the man looked like he could take care of himself. He clearly worked out and it showed. He also appeared to have no sort of extreme cybernetic modification done to his body, at least not any visible ones. His dull gray eyes, however, showed a minor mod, one resembling a mirror. Maria's sudden reflection in the eye made her realize his gaze had returned to her, and the woman broke her silence.
You're staring!
She shouted across the table. The man stopped sipping on his drink and cupped his hand over his ear.
What? I said you are staring. Do I know you?
Oh no, sorry. You just look... You reminded me of someone.
Maria shifted in her seat and changed the subject.
You look out of place. Not meaning to sound rude. You're just not dressed up for a night on the town.
The man laughed and held his beer up.
I wasn't really planning on partying. Just got back home.
What? Sorry, I can't hear you.
The man got up and started to make his way over, but stopped, gesturing to Maria for approval to sit down next to her. She nodded.
I was saying I just got back home.
Oh, on vacation? Let me guess. You got back home and you couldn't sleep.
The second part, yes. Vacation. I would not call it a vacation.
The man winced at the word vacation.
Where were you?
Moscow.
Maria pulled back a little and made a dour face.
Oh.
Yeah.
He nodded and took another sip of beer. There was an awkward pause between them before Maria spoke up again.
Military?
Yeah.
So, is it still as bad as they say? My brother was there 30 years ago. Just wondering if it's gotten better. Or worse.
A glaze covered the man's eyes as he began to remember things best left forgotten.
It's much worse. Too much. Even after all these years, some of it is back to normal. Well, normal for them. At least the radiation is gone. Silver lining.
Maria gave a half-hearted smile and sat back.
Well, glad someone is making it back safe and sound. Can I, buy you a drink?
The man gave a silent wave.
It's okay, not really looking to get wild tonight. Just wanted to see some familiar sights and try to relax. Plus, I'm not looking for a girlfriend tonight.
Oh, no. That's not what I meant. I just felt bad, I guess. Plus, I have a girlfriend. Tonight and always. Also, I'm here on business. I need to kill some time. Seriously, let me get you a drink. What do you have there?
The man shrugged and showed the label of the beer he was drinking.
I mean, if you find yourself up by the bar, thank you. I'm Korea, by the way.
Maria.
Maria and Kolya spent the next 3 hours ordering drink after drink. Maria getting way more drunk than she should have been. Every time she returned to the bar, the bartender would crack some kind of joke involving the word maybe, while chuckling at his own humor. Before she knew it, Maria had completely forgotten her original purpose of being at the club, and instead let herself explore the dance floor. The anxiety and impatience the woman felt when she entered the club left her with each sip of alcohol. And soon, she found herself surrendering to the music's wild rhythm.
In the shadow of the city lights, addiction claws in endless fights. Electronic dreams, they fade to blight. Lost in my love of synthetic night. You're my dark mystery, my endless delight. Addicted to your touch, I lose the fight. Neon glows with the heart stays numb, chasing ghosts where the shadows come. In the night where secrets lie, broken pieces in a digital sky. You're my dark mystery, my endless light. Addicted to your touch, I lose the fight.
Seeing doubles, Maria decided to call it a night and began to stagger out of the door when Kolya caught her arm.
Please do not tell me you're about to get behind the wheel.
Maria hiccuped and smiled.
I am not.
What is that in your hand then?
Maria stared at her hand. Her fingers lightly gripped the keys to her car.
Whoopsies!
Maria's drunk chuckling continued as she fell back onto the curb behind her.
Okay, tell me where you live and I will drop you off.
But you said something about not driving drunk.
Yes, but I am not as drunk as you. Where do you live?
That way!
Maria blurted out, pointing in a random direction. When they reached the apartment building, Kolya helped Maria up the flight of stairs and knocked on the door to their apartment. After a few moments, Misty opened the door just as Maria began to fall towards it, causing her girlfriend to gasp in surprise and half fail at catching her as she collapsed.
Maria! Oh my god, are you okay? What happened?
Maria tried to speak, but her voice was muffled in Misty's clothing.
What?
She had too much to drink at the club. Just wanted to make sure she got home safely. Sorry to drop her off like this and run, but I must get home and feed my cats. You two have a good night.
Later, Kolya.
Maria barely managed to croak out. Misty had been quite cross and concerned at Maria's unexpected arrival the night before, but waited until the next morning until she demanded answers. After receiving this information, she had attempted to make pachmili, a Russian meal famous for hangovers, but was unfortunately forced to finish with 3 missing ingredients. After the first bite, Misty could tell Maria was putting on a show for her, to save her girlfriend from hurt feelings. But after a few more mouthfuls, that's bad. They both laughed, and Maria held her head in her hands, groaning from the hangover.
I'm just glad you're okay, babe. You had me worried last night. I know. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. It's okay. So, how was that work thing? How did that go?
Maria's face suddenly shifted into genuine horror. Misty dropped her hands and stared into Maria's wide eyes.
Babe, what is it?
Maria stood up and began to look around frantically. She began to pat herself and then ran over to her jacket, where she reached into every pocket. Her face suddenly went pale.
Shit. It's gone. What is? The veil.
Misty stepped back and held her hands up in front of her.
You. Tell me you're not. No. Maria, are you dealing in veil?
The silence in the air told Misty all she needed to hear.
Babe, how could you? You know what that stuff does. Look at the people out there. They're suffering and the whole world ignores them because they literally can't be seen. Don't you think I know that? Every time I walk by them, I feel guilt. And I should. I know that some of them... Hell, all of them might be like that because of me. I tried to tell Dima yesterday. I promise I tried, but... Misty, he threatened to...
Misty took 2 steps forward.
What?
Maria began to tear up.
I would do anything to keep you safe. Anything.
Misty opened her mouth to speak, but the door to their apartment suddenly burst open, and 3 men quickly rushed into the room, one landing a heavy blow to Maria's stomach, causing the air to leave her lungs, and the breakfast to bubble up, which spilled from her mouth and pooled over the kitchen floor. As Maria wheezed and groaned in pain, a heavy and slow set of footsteps came into the room.
Oh, Maria, love, that is just gross. Disgusting. But you know what's more disgusting?
Maria continued staring at the mess she made on the floor as she heard a voice whisper in her ear.
The things me and my men are going to do to your lovely American trophy here. And my, what a beautiful creature she is.
Maria's head shot up and she watched as Dima strolled over to Misty, where he reached out and grabbed her face.
Let go of her.
Maria gasped out and yelped in pain as one of Dima's men pulled her hair back.
No, I don't think I will. You see, I can say no. That's my right. You, on the other hand, just couldn't let those feelings go, could you? You decided to play hero and go behind my back, to defy me. Like the coward that you are. I gave you a fucking order, and you disobeyed me. And what did you do with the veil? Veil? Anyone? Really?
Dima began snapping his fingers with impatience at his men, waiting for them to take the hint that he wanted them to search for the veil. They began to ransack the apartment, ripping things apart, overturning furniture, and dumping drawers out onto the floor. When their search yielded no results, their men returned, shaking their heads.
Where is it? What, did you find a new cellar? Is that it? Did you think you could keep all the money to yourself?
Dima accused.
What? No, I swear.
I don't believe you.
No, I had it with me. I was at the club and waiting like you said. Alyosha was just late, so I...
Dima's eyebrows rose.
You, what?
Maria stared at the drug lord in embarrassment.
I got too drunk. I forgot. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened to the drugs. I swear. I had to get a ride back here last night. It was that bad.
Dima chuckled and slowly shook his head.
Oh, Maria. Drunk? Really? That's your excuse? Gee, I wonder how many other people have used that excuse before you. I could not do my homework last night because I was too drunk. And my dog ate it.
He sarcastically spat at her while his men laughed.
You fucking bitch. Do I really look that dumb to you?
There was a long pause of uncertainty before Dima stood and shrugged.
And just what am I supposed to do with this information? Even if it's true. You ruined my deal. You ruined it. You know what? Maybe you were right. No, you were definitely right. I should not have sent you. I should have found someone else. That's my mistake. My mistake, everyone. You heard it here. I'm only human. I make mistakes too.
His men chuckled again.
But you know what? You cost me. And while I'm not going to kill you, I'm going to make you pay. With her.
What? No. No, please.
Maria began to sob and beg for Dima to have mercy. The man yanked Misty forward as he went to leave and slipped slightly in Maria's puke.
Damn it!
Ugh! He cursed and lifted his shoe to wipe it off on Maria's clothes.
Disgusting, truly. Ugh.
Dima, please! I swear I'll do anything you want. I'll do whatever you want. Anything, take me instead.
Dima turned around and pointed at Misty.
But I want her.
His men chuckled again as they walked out the door.
Don't worry, Maria. I won't kill her. But when I'm done, she'll probably wish I would have.
Once the men left, Maria struggled to stand. She hesitated for a few moments before she ran to the door, down the steps, and outside just as Dima's car began to drive away.
No! No, come back, please!
Maria feebly shouted after them.
Maria!
A voice drew her attention across the street. Kolya stood there, holding a familiar package in his hand. Maria's eyes widened, and she bolted across the street, nearly getting hit by a car.
Holy shit, Maria. Are you okay? Kolya, you have it! The veil!
Kolya suddenly looked extremely panicked.
I'm sorry. What?
Maria quickly grabbed the man.
Quick! There's no time! Where is your car? They took Misty! We have to catch them!
Kolya's eyes widened as pure panic and confusion took hold of him.
Kolya, please!
The two of them instantly began to run to his car and climbed in.
Hurry! I'm going!
He yelled back and began to drive.
Which car is it? What are we looking for? I'll know it when I see it,
Maria assured him. They shot past every slow-moving car in their path, worming their way through the traffic, until Maria's hand darted forward, nearly smacking Kolya in the side of the head.
There! That one? Okay, who are these people anyways? What's happening? Why don't you call the police? Dima owns the police.
Maria snapped back at him. Then after a moment, she took a deep breath to calm herself. She gave the quickest description of the events to catch Kolya up.
Shit. They've got guns then. Lots of guns? Any mods?
I don't know about his men, but Dima has an arm gun. And his eye, but I don't think that actually does anything. Probably just digital contacts like mine.
Kolya nodded and reached over Maria to open his glove box. There was a handgun inside, along with 2 extra mags. He grabbed everything and set it in his lap.
I'm sorry, but I don't have an extra gun.
Maria shook her head.
That's fine. You lead and shoot. I'll do whatever I can.
Kolya gave her a quick and doubtful glance.
We'll get your girl back. You have an optical link? Or are those just for show?
He quickly pointed to Maria's glowing eyes.
I have a link.
Kolya reached up and pressed a button behind his ears, and Maria did the same. Both of their eyes flashed for a moment before they synced up. A small screen appeared in the top left of Maria's vision. When she held her focus on it for a moment, Kolya's vision took over hers, and the screen at the top was instead replaced with her vision. They carefully avoided detection by following a few cars behind, and eventually, Dima's car led them deep into the Yellow District. After another 10 minutes, the car came to a stop. Maria's heart rose in her throat when she saw Misty being pulled from the car and dragged into a random building.
Here's the plan. I'm going in alone. You stay back and behind the wheel in case we come out running. Don't worry, I have it on Find Me mode just in case we have to find a new exit. If it starts moving on its own, let it.
Wait, what? I'm coming with you. She's my girlfriend.
I am aware, but even if you know how to use one, you do not even have a gun. And you are definitely not used to using one like I am. And you're rattled. You do more bad than good in this state. Trust me, a panicked person, they are more dangerous than you would know. I got this.
Kolya took a few deep breaths. Okay. But as he opened the door to leave, Maria grabbed his arm.
Wait, this is dangerous. You might die. Why are you doing this for me? You barely know me.
Kolya stared back at her for a long moment.
You remind me of someone I knew. Moscow. I could not help her, but maybe I can help you.
He stood and exited the car before she could say anything else. Maria watched through Kolya's vision with bated breath as the soldier made his way through one of the vents and carefully dropped down into a hallway. He paused for a brief moment before rushing to open a door and hid inside as a group of people walked by. After they were gone, he slid out and silently followed after them. Kolya watched them as they conversed for a moment, waiting for an opportunity. And one came. One of the men turned and walked into the bathroom, Kolya close behind him. He eased in between the shutting door and came up behind the man. Kolya's fingers peeled away and were replaced with long metal blades. He wrapped one arm around the man's throat and kicked one of his knees out from under him, causing him to drop quickly. Yell, and you die. Kolya's threat oozed into the man's ear, which brought forth a panicked voice to burble out a submission.
Where is the woman that your boss just brought in?
Fourth floor. They were taking her to the office. Please, don't kill me.
Kolya, showing no mercy, made the death quick and hid the man's body in one of the stalls. He ran down the hall as quick as he could and cracked open the next door. As he peered into a workshop of some kind, the door pulled open all the way and Kolya stumbled into the room. A surprised man on the other side was barely able to get a word out before Kolya's hand flashed horizontally across his view, creating a gash in the man's throat. The guard collapsed as a crimson fountain made its way out of his mouth. Several workers ahead stopped what they were doing and turned to face Kolya. There was a brief pause before everyone drew guns from hiding spots below the table and began firing. Kolya lifted his pistol and fired back, every other one of his bullets hitting someone in the chest. He dove behind a pillar, which splintered and broke behind the gunfire. Maria watched as he ejected a mag and quickly replaced it before rushing to find new cover. There was a groan of pain as Kolya slid behind a wall, and his hand lifted to show it was covered in blood. Maria's heart skipped a beat.
Kolya, are you okay?
Just a graze,
he replied and began firing around the corner at the approaching figures. He rushed across the gap and kicked in the door to the stairwell. His breathing quickened as he ascended, and the echoing voices of his pursuers could be heard behind him. He occasionally turned and fired down at the men chasing him, striking one in the throat, another through the top of his head, and the last in the arm with an unintentional ricochet. So far, he was making good progress. The second floor sign in his vision, the third floor, and when he reached the fourth floor. The door opened as Kolya twisted the doorknob, and Maria audibly gasped when she saw through the soldier's vision Dima. "Привет," he greeted Kolya with his arm outstretched as if to shake his hand. Before Kolya could react, Dima's arm split and the hidden gun fired a shot into Kolya's stomach, causing the soldier to reel over and collapse. He groaned in pain and spat up blood. When Dima's shadow came into view, Kolya tried to aim and fire at the drug lord's head, but missed as Dima stepped out of the way and quickly disarmed him. He handed the gun to one of his men and stepped back to stare at the soldier.
"A bit rude to just kick down my door and start killing all my men. They were my friends. Well, some of them. A lot of people that work here are kind of shit, if you want the truth. This job is not attract the best type of people, if you know what I mean."
Kolya stared at him, his vision blurring from the blood loss.
"Who are you?"
Dima got straight to the point when Kolya didn't satisfy him with a response.
"Who sent you? Was it Alyosha? I knew he was upset, but I honestly did not think he had the balls. Only one of you, though. That seems unlikely. If he wanted me dead, he would have sent more. Tell you what, if you give me a name, I will let you go. I am a man of my word. Right? Tell him, guys."
"Actually, sir, you did say you would pay me back for that stripper, but that was a year ago and you still haven't."
Dima made a face of shock and surprise.
"Really? I thought I did. Well, my bad. I will get you back right now."
Dima reached into Kolya's pocket, pulled his wallet out, and handed the money over to the other man. He then held Kolya's ID out in front of him.
"There you go. And who do we have here? Kolya Sidorov. A soldier ID, too. Where are you stationed?"
"Moscow."
"Tell me it was not Moscow. My condolences if it was. What a shit show. Maybe if you had done your job better, recovery would have gone smoother."
"Watch your tongue," Kolya growled at him between ragged breaths.
"Oh, he speaks."
Dima laughed and spun the ID away with a flick of his wrist.
"I am going to ask you again, Kolya. Who sent you?"
The silent dread could be felt from where Maria sat, all the way outside, in Kolya's car.
"Why don't you just speak up? Say a name. Why would you protect anyone? What have they done for you? What has anyone ever done for you? I have ears. I have heard the stories crawling up from the disaster in Moscow. Why would you defend those that could do that to their own people?"
"Just get it over with. I died back there with the others."
"Oh, that is the most depressing thing I have ever heard. Well, okay then. Soldier."
Dima drew his gun from his arm and aimed it at Kolya, but stopped. His eyes squinted and a sly smile spread across his face.
"Oh, is that one of those ocular implants used in the military? So they can keep watch on their soldiers? Here, let me see."
Dima drew a knife, and Maria watched in horror as the tip went out of view and circled around Kolya's eye. His screams echoed through the room. When Dima finished, the camera was pulled away from its original position, and he held it in front of his face.
"Whoever you are, Whoever sent this man to his death, I just want you to watch what happens next. Learn from this experience.
Dima turned and faced the camera around to view Kolya, who was now profusely bleeding out of his eye socket and violently shaking. Dima held the knife out in front of him and flashed it to the camera, before plunging it into Kolya's gut. With one quick motion, he cut sideways, spilling Kolya's insides out onto the floor.
Open wide!
The camera made its way into Kolya's screaming mouth and dropped into his bloodied throat, filming the gruesome descent. Maria switched the link off and sat in silence, staring at herself in the mirror. Her reflection stared back at her. She was horribly disgusted and sick of what she was seeing. Circles darkened under her violet eyes that swelled with tears. Her long black hair, that was usually put away in a ponytail, fell away from her in a tangled mess. Her mouth was still stained with dry vomit from earlier. She felt so useless in the moment. She released her anger with a scream as she threw her fist forward, shattering the mirror. Shards fell into her lap and scattered on the floor.
Look at the mess you've made. Look what you've done. And what can you possibly do to fix it? How can you save Misty?
Her vision, rippling with tears, stared down at the floor between her feet. The package of veil lay there. She felt her hands move on their own to grasp it, and removed the lid. Inside were 40 vials of veil, filled to the brim with the sickly green-colored fluid. She watched as her hand moved to remove a vial, and without hesitation, pressed it against her arm. She gasped in pleasure as the drug entered her bloodstream and began to race throughout her body, filling her with a sense of euphoria that she had never felt before. Her skin began to vanish before her eyes, and after a few moments, she was completely invisible.
So, this is what it feels like. Oh, shit.
Her thoughts raced with the repercussions of what she had done. Veil had started off as an experiment to grant soldiers temporary cloaking, toughened skin, heightened senses, and control over emotions. But unfortunately, the serum had some kinks to work out. The first batch had been terribly addicting, and after excessive usage, caused permanent invisibility and the users to lose everything that made them. All memories, their personality, their humanity, all gone. And only a handful could be lucky enough to claim the title of coming back from that level of addiction. But Maria would do anything for Misty. Anything.
It had to be Alyosha's, ma'am. Who else could that possibly be?
One of the guards said to the others. They posted themselves up outside the back door.
Dima makes a lot of enemies. What about that guy from America? The collector. He and the boss had that falling out a while back. Maybe it was him. Doubtful. 40,000 rubles said it was Alyosha. You're on. Keep your eyes open, though. There could be more after him.
The two men stopped their conversation when a figure stumbled through the rain towards them. A shadow of a woman, naked, only visible from the rain falling around her veiled form.
Ooh, look at the curves on this one. It's such a shame. If you want to, we can take turns with her behind the dumpster. No one will see.
They both began to laugh until one of the men staggered back, holding his hand over his throat, blood pouring away and mixing with the rain below their feet. "Oh shit!" the other yelled, but couldn't move quick enough before a bloody mirror shard turned and slashed at him. Maria crouched above the body of the men she had killed, her first time ever killing another person, for Misty. And it wouldn't be the last. She stood and opened the back door, accidentally letting it swing shut behind her with an audible slam. Her heart fluttered in fear for a moment before the veil flowing through her veins pushed the emotion back down. She looked to her right and flipped a switch, covering the hallway in darkness. "Lev! Gennady! You were supposed to stay outside!" Another man shouted as he stepped into the hallway. He looked right through Maria as she walked in the darkness. Confusion spread across the man's face before the flash of a reflective object revealed her location. Once again, it was too late for the man as the invisible woman drove the shard into his throat, silencing him. Maria continued her march of death into the next room, where she turned and grabbed the gun from the nearest guard leaning against the wall. The man panicked as he stepped back and stared at the floating gun in front of him. "What the fuck?" was the last thing he said, before his brains splattered over the wall behind him. Several other guards ahead turned around rapidly with their guns drawn, but were mowed down by a spray of automatic gunfire from the deadly shadow. Her screams of anger were muted by the deafening and echoing sound that filled the whole building. When the mag ran out, Maria was standing over a pile of men, blood pooling away from them. She quickly dropped the gun and jumped over the blood before any could touch her, making it over to the other side, just as the door opened, and 3 more men rushed by. The shadow slipped through the door and began to pick up speed, heading to the same stairwell that Kolya went up. She paused, thought for a moment, and instead got into the elevator with a couple of Dima's men. Maria's anxiety and stress rose with the elevator as she waited for the door to open, and once it did, she stepped aside, expecting Dima to repeat another ambush, like he did with Kolya. The moment the doors opened, a hail of gunfire riddled the elevator, dropping the 2 men to the ground.
Hold your fire!
Dima shouted out. Maria peeked around the side and could see several men crouched behind a table.
Damn it! Wait until you see who it is next time. Like I did with Kolya. I didn't just fire because of shit like that.
Maria carefully made her way into the room as the men slowly began to move forward, their weapons still raised. When Maria noticed a grenade on one side, she casually pulled the pin as she walked by and stepped behind a pillar as it blew. Smoke, debris, and chunks of flesh blew past her, filling the room with a cloud she could use for even more cover, and listened at the screams behind her as she walked away. She began to search the other rooms for Misty, and after the 4th one, there she was, guarded by 2 men and balled up in a corner of the room, frantically looking around as they listened to the chaos beyond the room. Maria strolled in and up to the first man, whose eye caught the reflection of light from the mirror shard and turned to face the sudden movement, but was too late. Again. The shard buried itself in his eye and twisted violently, causing the man to arch his back and fall to the ground. The other lifted his gun and aimed in Maria's direction. He could see a blood-covered hand in the air, and his eyes widened in fear. Maria ducked under the desk as he fired, his panic shots filling the room with lead and striking 2 more men as they entered the room. The shadow came up behind him and found a sweet spot in between his ribs, causing a surprised gasp to find its way out of his throat, and the man collapsed to his knees. Misty watched in horror at the unseen chaos before her, unaware of the situation or who was coming to save her. Her face lifted when Maria's voice whispered in her ear.
It's me, Misty. I'm here. I'm here to save you.
Misty began to sob and shake with relief as Maria helped her up.
Maria, what did you do? You took Vale? Don't focus on that right now. Focus on me. Focus on my voice. I'm going to get us out of here.
Misty wrapped her arms around her invisible savior and moved her hands across Maria's unseen face to find her lips, kissing them with such a force that Maria almost fell over.
Let's go.
The two of them left the room and began to run back the way Maria came, when Dima stumbled into view, bloodied but alive. His eyes squinted and narrowed as he heaved with heavy breaths.
Where do you think you're going, girlie?
His right eye squeezed shut for a moment as blood trickled from down his scalp, staining his vision. He froze before he wiped it away, staring at Misty's hand grasping something in front of her, something he could not see. With sudden realization, the man exposed his handgun from his arm and fired 3 rapid shots forward into the air, just as Maria pushed Misty out of the way and behind a wall. Dima could see a sudden spot of red appear in the air and knew he hit his mark, before Maria dove behind the opposite wall.
Maria? Is that you? Holy shit, girl! The fucking balls you have on you. What, you took a dose of Vale just for her? Oh, shucks. Well, that's what they call true love right there. Misty, you're one lucky woman. Maria, marching on in here, wreaking chaos. Guessing that Kolya was your man. Plan A, it didn't quite work out, did it? I'm guessing you saw that, though. Come on out, Maria. I promise I'll make it quicker than I did for your depressed soldier. I just couldn't resist in the moment. Maybe I did go a tad overboard, but it's too late now. Come on out. Where are you at, Maria?
Right here. Dima spun around in a panic when he heard the whispering voice in his ear, but was too late. The mirror shard found its way into his stomach, not once, but multiple times. He fell to the ground and dropped his handgun, which Maria picked up and aimed it at his head.
You...
The world seemed to go still after Dima's death, and Maria dropped to her knees, exhausted. Misty came up behind her and grabbed her shoulder.
Babe, are you okay?
Misty's voice was barely audible over the thumping of Maria's heart in her ears. She slowly turned and looked at Misty as her skin began to become visible again.
What a rush,
Maria said and chuckled. Her eyes drifted down at the bullet wound in her side, and she began to panic. Until Misty drew her necklace up.
I got you now,
she told her as she injected the BR-11 into the wound, which caused it to almost immediately heal up. Several weeks had passed since the incident at the workshop. The police, the same ones that had been on Dima's payroll, were forced to do their job for once, and they swarmed the place. The last few survivors were arrested, and the story got out of a single shadow that took out the entire crime syndicate, which brought more attention to other shadows in the streets, while some people began to fear them. Kind-hearted people, like Misty, reached out to them trying to help in any way they could. While some were beyond help, others retained a glimmer of hope. And that was what Misty held on to. Hope that she would find Maria out there. Somewhere. After their escape from the workshop, Maria had been slowly consumed by her new addiction to veil. And before Misty knew it, the love of her life was gone. Vanished. Slipped away into the rain. Misty searched everywhere, day and night, looking for her. And one day, she found Maria. While walking down the street during her search, the voice of a shadow under the pouring rain spoke up.
I love the smell of rain.
Misty stopped in her tracks and turned to face the invisible figure.
Maria?
She knelt and placed a hand on the shadow's shoulder. The invisible eyes looked up into Misty's. A moment of clear recognition. Clarity.
Misty? Is that you?
Misty smiled, and after a moment, the rain revealed the smallest smile stretching across Maria's face in return.
Can we find redemption in this endless Bye.